Everybody, it's your pal. It's your buddy Mike Messier. We're here on the beach, and while other people are maybe on their computers or twittering or Twitter fucking, I've got this beautiful beach pretty much at my disposal. And yes, it's cold. Yes, it's chilly, but that's not going to stop me from talking to my people here on YouTube. Want to talk about wrestling. Now, what's going on in the world of wrestling these days? People are, I guess Lars Sullivan, that's one story. Is this Lars Sullivan? Nobody really knows what's going on. He was a big deal in NXT and expected to come up to the WWE main roster. And the reports are, we don't know if this is true or not, anxiety attack or something. This poor guy. But of course, a few weeks earlier, there was reports that this Lars Sullivan years ago was kind of a troll on some bodybuilding blog posts and so forth, and maybe wasn't the nicest guy in the world himself. So who the fuck knows? But I will say this, and this is not about Lars Sullivan. I don't know much about the guy, but just in life you get some opportunities, and you work very hard for those opportunities. For athletes, musicians, entertainers of any kind, there's very few opportunities. When you're given that chance to swing that bat, you have to connect. And I'd hate to think that this guy in this particular instance, or anyone, is going to lose their opportunity once they've worked so hard for it. Now, I don't know the guy. I'm not trying to speak out of turn, but maybe this is going to be a lesson for anyone out there who might find this, rant that I'm doing. If you're trying to be a pro wrestler or actor, or entertainer, or anything, don't fuck up. I mean, you have to execute when you're at that plate, because so few people get the opportunity. You have to hit it a home run, and that's what it comes down to. So I have sympathy, but in a sense I don't. If he wasn't up for this task, then what the hell is he doing in the first place? What else is going on? People, the Becky Lynch thing is interesting to me. I mean, I have nothing against her. I think she's great. But I was watching a clip from SmackDown, and it's Becky Lynch addressing the audience, and either she's captivated the audience so much that they're listening to her every word, or there's just not much of a live audience there in the first place. And I don't really know. I mean, I would guess that these audiences for these live SmackDowns and Raws are not fully filled with human beings, as in paid audience members. So when Becky's speaking, there's not this raucous crowd noise. It's like they are attuned, because the people that are coming out and paying their money to see SmackDown live, as opposed to just watching it on television for free, I guess they're really into it and they want to hear what she has to say, which I guess is good. But it's not exactly getting a huge ovation for every word. The All Elite Wrestling press conference I watched, in case anyone watched that, I liked it. I mean, I think that what they need in that group is some heat. It's almost like everybody gets along, and I'm just telling you, I don't know what some of these guys that are doing wrestling shows, but they don't want heat. They don't want conflict. You've got to have conflict, and you've got to have heat in your wrestling promotion. I don't care if you're independent. I don't care if you're Japan or WWE, whatever. You've got to have conflict. You've got to have Dusty versus the Horsemen. You've got to have the Road Warriors versus Sting. You've got to have good guys and bad guys. Speaking of which, I've been watching from the old school wrestling, World Class Championship Wrestling, circa 1982, catching some really interesting stuff with Gary Hart. But I'm telling you, some of this world class stuff, it's like every fucking opening match is Al Madrill versus Frank Dusek, or Bill Irwin versus Jose Lothario for the Texas State title. So look, as much as I love the old school wrestling, it's like, wow, there's a lot of Jose Lothario and fucking Bill Irwin in this stuff. But the Freebirds have yet to come to town. They're coming soon. I even caught Harley Race doing a little wrestling faux pas, believe it or not. The great Harley Race was wrestling Kerry Von Erich at Texas Stadium, and at the end of this match, spoiler alert, but Harley does a flying body press, believe it or not, on Kerry Von Erich, but just really helps Kerry to pin himself, to pin Harley. Like, Harley pulls does a flying body press on Kerry, but literally just pulls Kerry over into the pin position. And that was at the Fritz von Erich Memorial retirement show, not memorial show, retirement show. It was kind of sad. I just watched this match at like 3 in the morning. Fritz von Erich retires, pinning King Kong Bundy in the fucking end zone of Texas Stadium, Cowboys Stadium. And then the Chris von Erich, Mike von Erich, David von Erich, Kerry and Kevin and Doris, like the whole family of von Erichs share this moment. And I wonder if that's like the only moment that was a big moment for the entire von Erich family to be there together. I mean, you know the sad story with them. I got into a bit of a Twitter thing the other day with Jim Cornette, believe it or not. I like Jim Cornette's rants, but he was really going after a guy named Paul Roma about some things that Roma said. Very serious situations. If you're in the Twitter world, folks, you can look into that. You can just dig up Mikey Messier, Angry Wrestling Fan. Me and Cornette kind of went at it. A little snippy, a little snappy. And of course, you know, more people are going to like Cornette's stuff than mine, although I think I'm right. I mean, I think I pointed out a Roddy Piper interview, an Al Perez interview, you know, the Donahue show. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But look into it if you must. As far as other things going on in the world of wrestling, I've been watching TNA Year 1, Total Nonstop Action, NWA. Watching these shows, man, I'm telling you, this was better than I remembered it. And to be honest, I really didn't watch a lot of these shows at the time. But because of my, you know, association with Vince Russo, shout out to Vince Russo if he happens to watch this. I think Vince Russo's having a hard day or something. But if you watch those TNA first year shows, they're very fucking good. The first wrestler ever introduced for an actual match for Total Nonstop Action was AJ Styles, believe it or not. It's AJ Styles, Jerry Lynn, and a third guy, was it Low-Key or Christopher Daniels, against the Flying Elvises. None of those guys really became anything. A guy that I've actually worked with in the wrestling business, Apollo, a friend of David Gear, DG Haven, was actually really doing well in the Gauntlet for the Gold. Jeff Jarrett did great in this thing. But if you get a chance, folks, if you want to see some wrestling that's kind of cutting edge, we're talking 2002, but it feels very fresh to me. TNA Year 1. Not to be crass, but I guess the WWE had some, you know, a little bit of a controversy this week. They had Alexa Bliss with her top off, of course, fully covered. And then this Mandy Rose thing. I don't know how I feel about it. It feels very Vincey. I think it is. To me, that material is not offensive to me, but I can see why it's offensive to others, especially, once again, when the WWE does this whole women's evolution thing, but then to use their, you know, top women, and Vince likes blondes, okay, which I'm not opposed to either, but when you kind of exploit them or you know, meatify them, if that's a word, then what are you saying to young women wrestling fans? I think I just lost a viewer, but that's fine. I'm still here. As far as other wrestling topics go, you know, there's a local promotion. XWA has a big show in Rhode Island coming up if you happen to be in the area. As far as other things, you know, Ring of Honor, MLW, I haven't really been thinking about much. I saw a thing of Shane Strickland is leaving or thinking about he's a free agent now. That's interesting. As far as there's other things going on in wrestling I wanted to talk about. What the fuck was it? I'm listening to this Lance Storm, Disco Inferno, Cyrus stuff, and I have kind of mixed feelings about it. I mean, you know, Disco Inferno hashtag me as an idiot last year because I was trying to play into, I think, you know, Jeff Lane or Vince Russo were trying to egg me on to challenge Disco Inferno to a debate, which never happened. I was up for it. But, you know, Disco and Lance and Cyrus have this 3-part interview up. You know, I'm sure it's a bootleg thing on YouTube, but quite honestly, I kind of felt like Lance and Cyrus were kind of ganging up on the guy and just kind of being patronizing to him. And this is the interesting thing about pro wrestling now is that people want conflict, but they don't. It's an interesting thing where it's odd. It's like they want the wrestlers to hate each other, but they don't. They want everyone to be friends, or they want everyone to be good. it's a very weird time for wrestling. I think social media and so forth have kind of screwed it up a little bit. Anyway, we're passing the 10-minute mark on this rant. Once again, my wrestling watching, I feel that my wisdom and my intellect and my intelligence in wrestling these days is pretty high, but I feel like I'm cleansing myself of wrestling, like I'm trying to pass on whatever wisdom or knowledge I have to others. I'm going to go back to Vince Russo. I'm kind of concerned about the guy for a moment because he was tweeting some stuff about he wished that he never got involved in the wrestling business. And I've heard other guys say that too. Once I asked Shane Douglas, what would he suggest to me about the pro wrestling industry, how to get into it, and Shane said, don't do it. And that was an in-person thing that he said to me. So I think wrestling's this hook. It's this hook that hooks a lot of us in, whether you're a fan, whether you're a paid professional, or whether you're somewhere in between. And a lot of people are in between. If they have a podcast or if they do a local promotion, I'm strictly non-professional. I mean, I don't have a paycheck coming in from wrestling now. And these views that I get are small enough. They're big enough to make me do them, but I'm not getting like all these YouTube clicks or whatever the fucks. So my thought, if you're a wrestling fan, if you can, try to stay as a fan, because I've experienced this myself. I did have a job interview for WWE. It's very easy to kind of cross that line and want to make wrestling your livelihood. And my experience has been, it's not a positive business. It might be getting better now. This Tony Khan guy with his AEW wants to make all these insurance or whatever he's talking about, healthcare, which is great if that happens. But see how that develops. But I think that a lot of professional wrestlers would tell fans, it's not a business to get into if you want job stability, relationship stability. It's a tough business to get in. It's probably a harder business to get out. And, like I asked Shane Douglas all those years ago, what would you suggest to a young guy like me who wants to get into the pro wrestling business? And Shane Douglas just looked at me and said, don't do it. And, you hate to squash somebody's dream. But I mean, I've applied to, TNA Wrestling, I think in 2009. I've applied to WWE, and I just know that sometimes there's more to it than the talent or the skill or the work ethic. There's nepotism, there's favors. It's a tough business. So any young person out there watching this video, or even older person, this is just my experience. For somebody else, it might be the greatest fucking thing since sliced cheese on a bologna sandwich. Anyway, Mike Messier, I'm going to let you go. Thanks for watching. If you do enjoy these videos, these wrestling rants, you just dig through Mike's Pro Wrestling Rants videos. There's fucking a lot of videos there. So there's about 250 at this point. I've been doing this for a year and a half. But just watch any of the videos you want. Share them. Retweet them. Fucking Instagram them. Whatever the fuck. Thanks for watching, Mike Messier. Talk to you later. MikeMessier.com. See ya. Trying to stop.